Welcome ninjas to the Coder Dojo. How is everyone going today? Hope you've all been keeping well. And I think hopefully we should finish off our missile command game today. And then we'll move on to a new project next week. So before we begin in these live streams, just as always, I'll spend maybe 5 minutes just recapping what we did last week. And just making sure that there's enough time for people to arrive for the live stream. So if you're watching this as a video and you find this stuff boring, just skip ahead until we actually start the coding. If you're in chat right now, just remember to always be cool in chat. Not only for how you yourself think of yourself as being cool, but be cool to everyone else. So be positive, be encouraging, and be kind. Just remember there's a bit of a latency, so if you type me a message and I don't respond immediately, don't worry. I will respond, but you'll receive the video on a bit of a delay. Speaking of which, hopefully there isn't as much latency. I've turned the bitrate down the stream, so probably slightly less good resolution, but hopefully you won't get too many like buffering problems. And if you need help with your project, just remember to remind me of where to find your Scratch account so that I can look it up and make sure that you share it so that I can see it and we can fix your code live on the show. Welcome, Cool Trish. Welcome, Falcon Fab Lab. How's it going? Glad to have you here. The other thing I should do is I'm going to share where we're up to right now, just in case there's anyone in the chat who hasn't done parts 1, 2, or 3, or you've missed one. This is where we're up to right now. You can just click on that link in the chat right now and click on Remix, and you should be up to date. All right, so that's pretty much everything so far. Let's have a quick look at what we have so far. So we have this code that makes a bunch of buildings. The nice thing is that we spent a bit of time making it so that the code makes the buildings. So we could actually make the buildings a lot smaller. We could, in fact, we hopefully will today spend a bit of time just going through changing some of the numbers just to like see what happens when we make, you know, the rockets behave differently, the cities behave differently, that kind of thing. And I don't think we've got the high, and we need to get the high score implemented as well. So the other thing, so the basic parts of this game so far is when we start, we have this sort of the bases get lined up at the bottom. We've got our cannon that fires this laser. If the laser hits a rocket, the rocket turns into an explosion, or rather it creates a cloned explosion. And if the explosions hit the bases, then it destroys the bases. And if we run out of bases, we lose the game. We've got a scoring system, and the rockets will destroy themselves and turn into explosions if they hit the bases as well. And they'll do the same thing as well if they hit the bottom of the screen. And we've got some different scores as well. And the explosions themselves, you'll notice, destroy the rockets. So if the rockets hit either an explosion or a laser or a city or the bottom of the screen, they delete themselves and they turn into an explosion. They spawn an explosion. They create an explosion. And we can control all sorts of things like how big the explosions get, how fast the rockets move, how many cities we have, how small the cities are, because the code that we've made is quite adaptable, which is pretty cool. Now, if you haven't done the other lessons, 1, 2, 3, don't panic. Don't worry too much about that. You can always go back and look at it later. For now, just focus on what we're doing today. Because what we're doing today is we are going to do something that we don't use very often. We're going to make a list, which is kind of like, you know how a variable is, it can store one piece of information. A list is just like that, but it can store a bunch of pieces of information. And we're going to use this list to keep track of where our remaining bases are, so that these rockets always point at one of the remaining bases, which is going to be really cool. Now, to demonstrate, let's have a look. Let me get rid of that list so it's a bit easier to see. All right, you guys ready? So let's have a look-see. So you can see I've made the bases a little bit smaller, and you can see all these rockets now. They're all pointing at a specific base. And as the bases get destroyed by the rockets, they don't point at the bases that have already been destroyed. So I'm just going to let a few of the bases get destroyed, and you'll see that the remaining rockets, let's see if we can, yeah. Now all the remaining rockets are all pointing towards the few remaining bases. So this is kind of cool. Game's not perfect. We probably, if we want this to be really fun, we probably need to figure out some other stuff. But this is really useful to know how to make lists do this kind of thing. As a quick overview of what this list is doing, let me show you. So when we start the game, it fills up this list with all these different coordinates for each of the bases, and then deletes the coordinates as the bases get destroyed. So you watch what happens. And now we're down to just 4 bases and 4 coordinates in the list. Now we're down to 3. So this is really useful for lots of things. It's very good if you want to make games that have like an inventory system like Minecraft does. Lists are a really good way of storing that information. So we're going to do a nice simple list. And that's been probably enough time. How's it going, Anthony Lowe? Lovely to have you here today. Hope you're keeping well. Oh, am I coming through okay, or is it having some problems with buffering? All right. Well, I'll continue going because it looks like there might be some problems, but I'll continue on, and hopefully, if you get too stuck, you can go back and view the video. Maybe I'll try just lowering the video bitrate a bit more. Say okay. I wonder if YouTube is still looking like I might be frozen. If you're in the chat, am I frozen right now? Is anything coming through? Let's quickly see if I can fix this before we move on with the coding, because it would be a bit of a shame. I don't think there's an easy way for me to restart this. A little bit of buffering? Okay, fair enough. Well, let's see. Hopefully, I've lowered the bitrate again, and hopefully that will ease up a little bit and be a bit better for you. It looks okay now? Alright, good. So, I've fiddled with some settings. Hopefully that's a bit better for you guys. Okay, so let's have a look inside. I'm going to move this across. Alright, so first things first, let's do something nice and not too difficult. Let's fix the score. So we're going to put a bit of code into our enemy rocket sprite that's going to update the high score. So this is kind of optional, so don't worry too much if you miss this bit out, and you might already have a good idea of how to do this, because this is pretty universal amongst most games. So everyone go to the rocket sprite, and then have a look at this piece of code here, the when green flag clicked. Have a look until you find your forever loop. The forever loop, basically, this is what makes all the rockets, all the clones of the rockets be created at the top of the screen, and they fall downwards. So let's have a look at that forever loop, and inside you'll see set x to a random number, then create clone of myself and wait 0.3 seconds. What we're going to do is we're going to have just in this piece of code here, and we could put it somewhere else if we wanted, but I'm going to keep it here because we've already got all of our stuff relating to score is kind of over on the right side here, so I'm going to keep it all together. We're going to put inside, underneath wait 0.3 seconds. Once you find that, wait 0.3 seconds. Underneath that, we want to go to control, the orange category on the left. We want to look for if, drag out that if. It's about 4 from the top of the control codes. Once you've got your if then, that is, so your if then with that little space in the middle, we're going to put an operator in it. We've done a bit of this already, so hopefully you know where to find your operators. It's the green category on the left. Then have a look for about 6 down. There's a more than operator. A space, and then an arrow, and then a 50. And the arrow is pointing towards the 50. So this one is, I say arrow. Yeah, it's an arrow, more or less. That's a more than. And then we go to variables, and we look for the score and the high score. So we go to variables, the dark orange category on the left. Look for that rounded score variable, drag that out, put it in the first space of that green more than operator. And then we look for high score, drag that out, and drop it over the 50. So this is going to ask the question, has the score become more than, greater than, a higher number than the high score? Because if it has, we have a new high score. And then what we do is we just look for set variable to. So have a bit of a look. It should say set bases left to 0. So look, it should be the first sort of square code line there. Set, and where it says bases left, click on that white triangle and select high score, because it's the high score that we're updating. And what are we updating it to? We're updating it to whatever the score is right now. So drag out that little score variable and put that over the 0. Okay, how's everyone going? If you're in the chat, let me know if I'm still coming through, because my YouTube window is showing me that I'm kind of frozen and forever buffering. So just type into chat if you can still see me and hear me talking. Hopefully it's coming through okay, because I don't think there's an easy way of me restarting this stream without starting up a new one, and that would be really unfortunate. Let's have a quick look. No, I don't see an easy way of just hitting a button to try and refresh what's going on here. All right, well, we'll just keep going. How's it going, FaZe? Keeping well? All right, Hopefully you guys can see me. If not, unfortunately, yeah, it's okay. All right, thanks for that. My YouTube window is not giving me what it normally gives me, which is a running video of what I'm broadcasting. All right, well, let's continue on, shall we? So probably on my end says Falcon Fab Lab Coder Dojo. Good. All right, that's fine. I'm happy with that. All right, let's continue on. So we've just put in this piece of code here. If score greater than high score, cat alert everyone. Cat emojis in chat. Then set high score to score. And we've used this a bunch of times before. If you haven't gotten this in, don't worry. It's not super important. You don't need a high score. Today we're going to move across and we're going to work on our list to get our homing rockets working. So before we do anything else, the thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create a new... actually, no. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to bases. So have a look on the right side. Click on the sprite that says bases, whatever you've called it, but it's the one, the line of like all these like buildings that the rockets are trying to explode. Your bases. Okay. So now what we want to do is, we want to create a list. We're going to make a list that keeps track of where all of these bases are. And we only need to keep track of their x coordinate. Because the x coordinate is the only one that matters, because they're all the exact same position in terms of up and down. They're all at the bottom of the screen. Their y coordinates are the same. Their x coordinates are going to be different, and so it's going to be the x coordinates of the bases that we're going to use to keep track of how far to the left or the right. How's it going, the fake phasers? Alrighty. So let's create this list. Everyone go to variables. Have a look, and you should see a button that says make a list on the left there. It should be underneath all of your variable stuff. Click on that, make a list, and you should come up with this. We're going to name this list. Now, I've got a long name for it. As long as you understand what this list does, you can give it a slightly different name, but I do recommend, if you're not quite sure how this all works, just give it the same name that I do so that it's easy to find when I'm talking about it. So I'm going to call this X coordinates of bases. Give you a bit of time to write that in. X coordinates of bases. Make sure that you've got for all sprites clicked. Once you've finished writing X coordinates of bases, press OK. And we now have a bunch of stuff to do with lists. Just the same as when we make a variable, we have a bunch of stuff to do with variables. So what we are going to do is we are going to use this list to keep track of all the x coordinates of the bases in particular. So the first thing that we need to do is, like a variable, we need to reset our list at the beginning of the game. Because if we saved a partial list in the previous game, we need to make sure that we clear it so that we don't end up duplicating anything. Just like a variable needs to be set back to 0 at the beginning of the game, or set back to whatever it's supposed to start at, we need to do that. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this right underneath where it says define create bases. So come up to define create bases and look right underneath exactly where it says define create bases, and before it says repeat until x position more than 220. So right underneath, we are going to look for, on the left, delete all of x coordinates of bases. Delete all of our list. We want to make sure it starts off fresh and empty. So that's like in all the list codes, it's like the third or fourth. Grab out, delete all of x coordinates of bases and put it underneath define create bases. Okay, we've got that. Now what we need to do is we need to make sure that each time we make a base, we add in its x position as an item on the list. So what we're going to do now is we are going to look for where it says create clone of myself. So find that, create clone of myself, and just above it, drag out add thing to x coordinates of bases. So you should find that near the top of all the list codes. Look for add thing to x coordinate of bases and put it right above create clone of myself. Okay, so and what's the thing that we're going to add? Remember, it's the x position of these bases. So everyone, go to the dark blue category motion, because Scratch does this nicely for us. And then look all the way near the bottom of the dark blue codes motion, the dark blue category. Look near the bottom and you'll find this nice rounded x position variable. Drop that over the word thing. Now test that, hit play, and what should happen is your list fills up with all of these numbers. And then if you hit start, it empties and fills up with the numbers again. So you should have your list should have as many numbers as you have bases. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bases, and the length of this list is 11 numbers. Good, good, that's what we want so far. Nice and easy. Now we need to make sure that when the base gets destroyed, it deletes itself off of the list. So everyone zoom out a little bit. You are looking for the when I start as clone. Look for that, when I start as clone code. So let's remember, what does this code do? Well, this forever if touching explosion, change bases left by -1 and delete this clone. This is the code that runs when the base is destroyed by an explosion. Perfect. What we want to do is we want to remove this base's entry from the list. There's a nice easy way of doing this. It seems a little bit wordy, but don't panic. Go to variables, scroll down for those really dark orange, browny almost list codes, and look for item, and then there's a hashtag symbol, item hash of thing in x coordinates of bases. This I know must seem actually we want to look for we actually want to so get I think it's delete so we want delete one of x coordinates of bases first. We want this one first. They're all the same color, so it all sort of blended in for me. Delete one of x coordinates of bases. Grab out that, delete one of x coordinates of bases, and put it right above delete this clone, okay? Drop that in. So this is going to delete one item out of this list. The problem is it's going to delete the whatever, maybe the first item, who knows? We need it to delete the right number. We need it to delete the correct number. So have a look for that other one that I mentioned, the item hash of thing in x coordinate of bases. Drag that out. Now this is, I know, very confusing. Don't worry too much. Just drop it over the 1. So now we have this very long bit of code. What this is going to do is whatever that we write here in thing, it's going to find that item and then it's going to delete that item. Normally, when you delete entries in the list, items on a list, you need to know which is it. if we look at this list here, can you see everything's like that's the first item in the list, that's the second item in the list, the third item in the list, the fourth item in the list. So normally that's what you look for. So we need to first figure out which one we're meant to delete, and then we need to delete it. Nice and easy. We already know what number it's meant to be. It's meant to be whatever the X position of this base is. So go back up to motion, the dark blue category. Look at the very bottom, motion, the dark blue category. Look for X position. Drag, just like we used just a little while ago, drag out that little rounded X position and drop it on top of thing. Okay. So, a lot of words, but it should be nice and simple now. So let's test this. Let's hit go. And let's have a look at our list. So our list, it's filled up. There's 12 items. There's 12 of them now. There's 12 bases. But now look what's happening. Each time a base is destroyed, it deletes its record off of the list. That's good. That's what we want. So if I let some of these bases get destroyed, watch what happens on this list on the left. It fills up. There's 12 items in it now. If I let some of these rockets fall, now all these items are going away. They're being deleted. And these remaining items are the X position of the remaining base. There's only one left, so its X position is -45, which makes sense if you understand coordinates. Great, that's all working exactly as we want it. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to get our rockets to point at a remaining base. Now there's a few ways we can do this, but honestly, probably the easiest way of doing it is just to create a sprite that moves around, and we can point at that. Because unless I'm incorrect, there's no good line of code in Scratch that says point at these coordinates. You can make them go to coordinates, but you can't actually make a sprite point at coordinates. So we're going to make a sprite to basically use our little bit of targeting code. So everyone, we can have a little bit of a break from coding just for a second while we set up this new sprite. Go to the bottom right corner, click on choose a sprite. Now this is going to become invisible, so it doesn't actually matter what you choose, but I'm going to choose this button 5. Just here. It's a nice little cross. That works. Okay. So what we are going to do is we need to make sure that the cross at the beginning of the game goes down as low as all of the bases are first, and then it moves to and fro different bases depending on what's on the list. So this is how we're going to do it. So go to events, the yellow category on the left, drag out when green flag clicked. This is all going to be in the button 5. Let's rename this as well. Everyone knows how to rename a sprite. I'm going to call this rocket target. And remember, it doesn't matter what this looks like because we're going to make it invisible. But before we do, let's make sure it goes down to the correct height. Let's make sure that at the beginning we set the Y of this sprite, this rocket target, to nice and low on the screen. So everyone go to motion, look near the bottom, you should find set Y to and then a number. Set Y to, drag that set Y, and then click on whatever number it says. Mine says currently -27, but we're going to change that. Type in -130. -130 is pretty low on the screen. You can change this a bit later if you want. And then we are going to make it jump around a lot. for the rest of the game until the game stops. So go to events, drag out forever, not events, control, and drag out forever. So we've used forever loops a lot. Drag out a forever. Then we're going to go back to motion, the dark blue category motion, and look for set x to number. Set x you don't want to have to set y. You don't want to have change x. You want to have set x. Drag that out, because this x setting our x to one of these numbers means it will go to one of the remaining bases. So drag that out, set x to, and then we are going to we're going to go back to variables, the dark orange category, look down, and look for item 1 of x coordinate of bases, item 1 of our list. Drag out that item 1 of x coordinates of bases and put it over the number for set x. So this will mean it always goes to the first item in the list. We want it to go to random items in the list. So how do we do things randomly? By introducing a bit of chaos. We do that with our operator pick random. So go to operators, the green category on the left, and look for pick random 1 to 10. Drag that out and put it over the 1. So you're going to go to operators, the green category, look for pick random 1 to 10, drag that over the 1 in our item 1 of list. So now we've got pick random 1 to 10. Okay, that's good. The problem is that 1 to 10, we don't actually know, so it's going to always pick a number between 1 and 10, but the list is not always going to have 10 numbers on it. It might have 11, or it might have 5, or it might only have 3, or even just 1. So we actually need to change this second number in our pick random to be however long our list is. And to do that, it's nice and easy. We go back to variables. Back to variables, the dark orange category. Look down into the really dark orange, those kind of almost brown list codes. And then look for length of x coordinates of bases. Look for length of list. Drag out that length of, and it's very important you put it in the second number. So we should have our pick number 1, 2, and then so pick random number 1 to whatever, however long the list is. Okay, let me zoom out, because again this is fairly long, but it's not too. Once you break it all down, it's not too hard. So hopefully you've been keeping up. If anyone's stuck, let me know in the chat. Hopefully you guys can still see the stream. I'm definitely having some streams strength issues here on my end. That's what it looks like to me anyway. So make sure you've got all of that, and I'm going to test it. What we should see is this X is going crazy, just basically pointing at all, just basically moving around all of these different bases. But you'll notice it only goes to the bases that are still on the list. So that's really good. We're going to make this invisible in a bit, but for now, let's make it so that the rockets point towards this rocket target sprite. So, if you go to the rocket sprite, has everyone got this piece of code done okay? Hopefully. Go to the rocket sprite. and have a look at when I start as clone. And you'll see there's a line underneath show that says point in direction 180. So we need to take this line out. Let me zoom in for you so you can see it on my screen. So look underneath when I start as a clone, underneath show, underneath that is point in direction 180. So drag that repeat until down a bit so that you can then drag out this point in direction and throw it away. Make sure you don't get rid of anything else. We want to just get rid of just that line. Then go to motion and look down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. From the top, you should have something called point towards mouse pointer. We don't want it to point towards the mouse pointer, but we're going to change that. Drag that out. Drag out point towards mouse pointer. It's in the motion, the dark blue category. Then look for the white triangle next to the word mouse pointer. Click on that. And you notice that we can choose what these rockets are going to point at. We always want them to point at the rocket target, whatever you've named it. Whatever it is that sprite that we're going to make invisible soon is called. So I've called it rocket target. Select that and then connect up the repeat until underneath the point towards. So now we have, when I start as clone, show the rocket, which is good, then point towards wherever the rocket target is. So now let's open the game, and we should have all of these rockets going in different directions. And if they get rid of some of the bases, they will only be going for the remaining bases. And you can see that target doing its work because it's flickering between all of our remaining bases and making it so, and you notice now the target's all stuck on one base. And all the rockets are going to just the one base. Okay, that's good. The only thing that we need to do now is make it so the rocket target is hidden. So go to rocket target, go to looks, the purple category, look down near the bottom, you'll find hide. Remember, this is in rocket target, the sprite rocket target, and you've got to drag out the hide code. Drag out that hide code and put it underneath when green flag clicked. And now all of that stuff with the target moving around is hidden from the player. They can't see it happening. It's still happening, and it's still working because the rockets are all working. Okay, how did everyone go with that? Everyone got that working? Let's make it nice and big, and I'll make this list a bit smaller. Not smaller, I'll make this so we can't see the list anymore because it's in the way. So that's basically all of the important coding. The rest of it that I wanted to just basically go through today was maybe just making sure that your code is working. So if it's not working, let me know in the chat. Let me know what your Scratch name is. We'll look it up and we'll fix it together. And then just before we finish up, I just wanted to talk about tweaking some of these numbers because they can change the gameplay quite a lot. If we change how big the explosions are, it changes the way the whole game works. If the explosions are really big, the game actually kind of becomes a bit easier because all the rockets keep destroying each other as soon as you destroy one of them. The rockets, how fast they move, makes how big the rockets are, how big the bases are, how many bases you have. You notice when we start this game, the bases are they're a bit too big, I think. I don't like them. They're a bit too big for me. I want to make them a bit smaller. So I'm going to make just some changes just to make the bases smaller. And the nice thing is that these changes that I make are going to be really easy because the way that we've set up the code is it's adaptable. we can change just a few little numbers and the whole thing completely adapts, and nothing else needs fixing. If we did a lot of this stuff manually, like we decided where all the bases should go, and we put in all of these individual numbers and kept track of all these things in a way where the computer's not doing the work, we're actually doing the work, then the moment you want to change it, you have to change so much. Whereas the way that we've programmed it, I know sometimes it might seem a little bit needlessly complicated, but it's really cool. It's really adaptable. Okay, let's have a look at Cool Trish. Cool Trish says that they have some more on the list than they have in the base. All right, let's have a look up Cool Trish. And let's see if we can fix this together. If anyone else is having problems, you just let me know. Okay, let's have a look for Cool Trish. Let's go to your page. The RPG is there. Snake is there. Have you hit share, Cool Trish? Just make sure you've hit save. Make sure you've hit share. Let's have a look. I see Snake. I see. Don't see. Unless it's near the bottom. Oh, there we go. Missile command. It's just come up now. That's good. Okay. Let's have a look inside. Okay. So, let's have a look inside this bases code. Okay. So, let's make it so that we can see the list. The game starts, and all of the it seems to be working okay. Am I looking at the right one? Let's go backwards. I might be looking at the wrong one. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. Missile Command Remix. Okay. Let's have a look inside. Okay. Bases. Okay. So, I think we found the problem. So when we start the game, it doesn't delete the whole of the list. So, what you need to do is look for where it says Define Create Bases. Can you see it says delete one of X coordinate of bases? That's only one item. We want to delete the whole list, every item on it. So just pull out that delete one and have a look for delete all. So yeah, you can see that. Put that in between define create bases and repeat until, and then it should work out correct. Yeah, that looks good. Looks better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in the list. Good. Can we get it down a bit lower? 4 in the list. 4 bases. 3 in the list. 3 bases. 2 in the list. And game over soon, I think. There we go. Nice. Sweet. Done. So that's all you need to do. Look underneath define create bases in the bases code, in the bases sprite. Look for delete one of list X coordinate of bases and replace that with delete all of X coordinate of bases. Okay. How do you make global high scores? There are a bunch of ways of making global high scores. So when you say global high scores, Fake Phasers asks, how do you make global high scores? There's a few different ways of doing this. We're doing a very simple high score here that basically is just one number, and whoever has the highest number, that's what the number. Whenever you get the higher number, it's that's how it works. It updates the new number. Now this high score, I think is particular. I think is I'm trying to think if it saves this in the game. Like if you come and play my game, is the high score 17,800? There are ways of changing variables so that they are cloud variables, and that might make it so that everyone has the same high score. They see the same high score. It's not generating a different high score for each player. The other ways where you might be talking about is what's called a leaderboard. A leaderboard is where you can see the names of the people who've gotten the scores. They get to type in their name. That is very cool, but that's like an entire coding lesson in of itself. And in fact, a list, or maybe even more than one list, you'd maybe need to have a couple of lists working next to each other, which in coding is called a table. Scratch doesn't have tables. The only way to make tables is to have lists next to each other, and then it creates that you've got to hack that into making a table. That might be the best way to create a leaderboard where you've got like the names of people and their codes. Does that answer your question, Fake Phases? So with the remaining time that we've got left, I want to do some tweaks just in terms of the numbers, and then I want you to go away and have a mess around with some of these numbers. And then what I'll probably do is post I might post my my original. I made it so I changed the graphics a bit, and you can change this. This isn't too hard. You can change this. I like this because it looks like you have a moon base now. So, and it's really easy to see the rocket. There's nice contrast. It looks kind of cool. Like, I don't know, this is a bit more reminiscent of the original game where you're meant to be defending a moon base. I think that's the version of the original game that I used to play anyway. So the aesthetics of it are nice. Like, I like how easy it is to see the rockets. You could change this sort of stuff, and I did this by splicing in. I even did a cute little effect with this little bit of moon that comes up. Just I liked the idea that like it looks a little bit like the camera's changing, and like the moon is kind of, you know, the horizon shifting. It's a little bit of a cheap trick and doesn't look that good when you look at it up close, but I thought it was kind of cute. But I'm not gonna show you that. I'll post the link to this version of the game so that you can have a look and see how the code was done yourself if you like. But what I'm gonna do, and I have a backdrop and I have the moon as like an actual sprite. What I'm going to do though is I am going to update some of these numbers. The Fake Phases, could we please do a leaderboard session? That's a good idea, actually. Yes, we can. We will get a game. I don't know when we'll do that, but we will get a game. And we will figure out a way to make a leaderboard on it. It might have to be a slightly simplified leaderboard. I'll have to look up the best way of implementing it on Scratch. But yeah, I will look into that for you. Okay, Fake Phases. I think that would be a really cool lesson. I would really enjoy doing that one. Speaking of which, if anyone else has any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment on one of the videos once it's gone up. That's a really good way of giving me suggestions that I can come back to later, and I can make new lessons on that. Okay, let's do some tweaking of numbers, and then I think we're all done. No one else has said that they've had any problems with the code. Hopefully you've had fun with this one today. Let's have a quick look at some of these numbers, and I won't go through this too... Actually... Do you know what? What I'll do instead, because we are pretty much running out of time, and I don't want you to don't want to start something I can't really finish. Have a bit of a look through the code yourself, if you haven't done, and see if you can tweak the numbers. So let me compare these two games somewhat. So that one's the remix. Let's leave there. Okay, so a few graphical things. You can see that the blue, it's a little bit hard to see the rockets, I reckon, so I think you might be better to change it off. Also, the bases are really high, some of them. Like, look at this one over here on the right, that one's really high. And they kind of feel a bit too big. And the rockets themselves are also like really big and chunky. So in my updated version of it, basically made all the bases a lot smaller, but also I made the spacing between them a lot smaller. So they're nicely, tightly packed together, and there are more bases now. So the game, but I made the rockets, I think, a little bit smaller. I made the explosions a little bit smaller. I think that's most of it. But yeah, see if you can look at the code and figure out what happens when you change certain numbers. And what I recommend you do is you change one number, just one, in the code that you think will change, for example, how close the what are they called? The bases are. Change that number, test it, and if you don't like it, change it back. Because you can do things, and like you could make the rockets move faster, you could make the rockets move slower, you could do all sorts of stuff. But this one was really fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular series. We're starting a new series next Thursday. It's a surprise for now, but keep an eye out. Over the next day or two, I'll put it up on the Coder Dojo, the YouTube channel, and you can see what's in store for next Thursday. But we do these every Thursday at 4 p.m. If you want to check out the physical library programs that we're running now, including we're doing some school holiday activities, we're doing some fun stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, we're doing some fun stuff like coding, then just type into Google Eventbrite City of Swan Libraries. If you can spell correctly, like I can't. And the first thing that comes up will be all of the events that are coming up. A lot of them are booking out really fast. I'm really sorry, because we can't have too many people coming to them right now with all the restrictions, but we might be able to up the numbers a little bit. But we've got all of our physical events in our physical libraries. No Coder Dojos just yet, but we are doing stuff similar to Coder Dojos, and that's why I'm continuing to do these streams, so that we can keep it open for everyone, no matter how much space we have in libraries or how little space we have in libraries. Everyone can come to these at least. All right. So if you subscribe and ring the bell, you'll get notifications of when you can get future live streams. As I said, we do these every Thursday at 4 p.m. And until I see you guys next week, you guys stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.